Every day now, there's new articles out and we're reaching new highs. And it's not the highs that are that positive, it's actually the ones that we should actually avoid. So when we're looking at new highs, what do I mean? Well, new highs is when we reach highest credit card that ever, right? Highest foreclosures are coming, right? This is in like the last year or two, there's the higher foreclosure rates now. There's higher credit card delinquencies now. There is higher car repos, right? So I got all these things that is higher than ever, right? So we got car delinquencies, we got credit cards, we've got you name it, we're reaching it. And one of the things is that we're also doing more tech layoffs than ever, right? So we're doing all these crazy tech layoffs. And now we're looking at Paramount today just said, oh, we're going to lay off 15% of people, right? So now we're looking at, okay, we are letting go more and more people by the day, and it is not stopping. It is totally not stopping. Whatever we're doing, we're keep reaching new highs, layoffs, everything. And the unemployment numbers right now is at about 4.3%. And people aren't even considered in that statistics. If you've been unemployed for a little bit too long, then you cannot be considered in that data anymore, right? You've been unemployed for a certain amount of time, whatever your state says, and then you're not in there. So when you're presenting the facts like that, it's like, oh, it's not too bad. But in reality, it is detrimental to us as Americans, right? Because we are all consumer driven. And when we have consumerism, we need money. We need to have jobs. We need to have, ways to pay our bills. We need to have ways to fund our lifestyle, right? And when you have something that is constantly based off of growth, we need more money every year to keep it up. And just putting stuff on credit cards, yeah, the economy looks great now, but it is not, once the credit card gets declined and you do not have another one and they won't give you another one, then you're done, right? Because if you're at the grocery store, and people have been telling me that in the comments below, that in the grocery store, there's people with debit cards and food stamp cards that are getting declined. That they're saying that we cannot, like small debit cards of like $8, $9 that they cannot pay. I actually was at, what was it, the dollar store the other day, and somebody was trying to buy food for 6, 7, $8, and they couldn't do it. I don't know if it was food stamps, their personal debit card, it just wouldn't go through. So I said, I got you. $6 isn't going to change my world. So I paid for them. But this is just the severity of how bad it actually is. And a lot of people don't understand. And if you are living in some area, where there's still a lot of manufacturing going on, you might not be there. But if you are in an area where there's tech jobs and all this other stuff, and they're doing layoffs, and then they're like, oh, I can't get another tech job, then you are pretty much screwed. And people tell me, oh, you can always get another one. You can always get a job. Yes, you can always get a job. But a job isn't the same as a good paying jobs. And that is what a lot of people in the comment section don't quite understand, is that you have the opportunity to go out and get a $15 gas station job. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have a lifestyle that needs $150,000, $160,000 job, because you were making that for many years now, for 20 plus years, you were making six figures, and now they're not hiring you, and not hiring you because you're maybe age biased, there's just no job out there, then that is an issue, right? And so now you got to be showing your value in the marketplace. And how do you do that? You go on unemployment and you try to find another jobs, and you start searching like crazy. But just because you're searching like crazy doesn't mean that you're going to find something, right? So it is not that easy right now when everybody is doing layoffs. And I feel like in 2008, there weren't that many tech layoffs, really high paying jobs that were being let go, right? So now we have all these costs that are running up like crazy. We have everything is more expensive now. Electricity, gas, like literally everything in the world is now 30+% up, right? Is more expensive. Grocery prices are more expensive. And now you add these layoffs, and then what do people do? Not get food? This is just not a good indicator for all of us how everything is running away with being more expensive, and then they're doing layoffs. So I would understand to some sort that if we are, inflation's going crazy, but we still having jobs, and eggs are expensive at the grocery store, but we're still making money, then I'm like, I can deal with that. I can totally deal with that. It's like, hey, we're, at least everybody's having jobs, and you can switch every 2 years, and you can get a kind of pay bump. But now we're in a situation where you cannot do that because there might be layoffs upon layoffs. And like I always say, this one person in my comment section said she got laid off 3 different times from 3 different companies in like 1.5 years. That is not good. That is really bad. So when you're starting to be in that mindset, you never stop job searching and networking, because you never know when they're gonna fire you again, right? So this is just the world we're living in today, with higher highs that aren't great for us, And what do you do? Like, I'm always thinking about in my videos, what do you do and how do we get out of this? And I'm always referring back to interest rate just needs to come down a little bit, but we're now in this trend with all these layoffs. And what's funny is it's always about 15%, right? They'll cut it like 12% or something, or 10%. It's always 12 to 15% of layoffs, right? And I think some of the stuff has been brought to us by our own design, right? When they're saying that we are laying off these people because of work from home, right? So we basically taught these companies that if you can work from home, they can work from another country. And then it's an easy step of a CEO to actually say, hey, you know what we're going to do? Instead of us actually, um, you know, instead of us hiring Americans, we'll just hire across the globe. We can cut our costs down. These people across the globe, from India, Pakistan, wherever you want to name it, we can hire these people at a fraction of the cost. They'll work longer. We don't have to pay all these high, benefits. And then, we can then make more profits. And that's what a corporation is designed to do, profitability, right? So now we're looking at all these people that were working from home got outsourced to another country, right? So the day at one time is going to come, and no, at one time the bill's going to be due, and people need to then say, hey, if you're trying to sell laptops, if you're trying to sell software into the United States and nobody can buy it because there's just no jobs and nobody can afford it, how great was your move? But it is not that we can just say, hey, we're just going to boycott them. No, it's got to be a slow, painful decline of more layoffs. And I've seen people, like John Deere talking about this, that used to buy John Deere tractors. They're saying, like, I'm not going to, farmers, I'm not going to buy John Deere. They screwed me over. They're too expensive. I'm going to have another company, do my stuff because it's just not worth it to me anymore. And it's funny because I kind of like that mentality, but then I'm like also really sad that these Americans that are still working at the company are going to get hurt, right? Because if nobody's going to buy their products, they can make it wherever. They could make it on the moon and ship it down, and if nobody's going to buy, nobody's going to buy, right? So it doesn't really matter where you get, where you manufacture. If there's nobody that can buy, it's, if nobody has the money to do it, then it's not worth it. And when you look at all these expensive softwares, all these expensive, items, they're all on subscription. You can go where you want now and look at it. The new way to go is via subscription service, right? Recurring revenue. And Americans just do not have it in it anymore to do it. And it's just a matter of time till there's going to be a mass pull from Netflix. There's going to be a mass pull from all these streaming services because it's just not worth it. You cannot keep increasing prices with the same amount of with keeping the same amount of people and keeping the same amount of products, and just keep increasing the prices without delivering a better product. At one point you're like, why would I do that? Why would I keep paying for my Netflix? Why would I keep paying for all these other services like Spotify? There's been like a movement now to cancel Spotify because it's also keep going up in price. And if you have jobs and you get a pay raise, it gets adjusted for inflation. I get that you can keep your subscriptions and all that. But all of a sudden, when there's a movement in the market where it's like, I can't afford that anymore, like SiriusXM, right? That's a luxury that I used to have. I used to have SiriusXM in all my cars, but I don't drive a lot, so I canceled it and I said, it's not worth me spending these $4 or $5 extra just because it's money that I don't need to spend. And then all of a sudden, they need to do layoffs. And so it is a whole cycle of downward spiral, right? And I know at one point, they're gonna have to decrease prices. They're gonna have to say, hey, we're gonna decrease the prices because it's just not gonna be sustainable for them to keep them high. At one point, they're gonna bring back the dollar deals, the cheap food at McDonald's and all this kind of other things, because they were gambling on a whole bunch of different items that they're like, hey, if we can sell a hamburger at $20 a pop, then, instead of at $5, hey, we need to make less, the cooks are less stressed, and at the end of the day, we still make the same amount, and we actually make more profit if we just sell it once and not have to worry about it, right? Not have to worry about how much, the people aren't going to show up, like, oh my gosh, my team out of 10, only 3 showed up. So, I'm stressed out now because we have these huge orders. No, if you only have to do one and make the same amount of revenue, you can only have one cook and you can have one person, staffing the fryer. And then you only need one person to take the order. And that is what is gonna happen, right? Then they're like, hey, that's, all these crazy, crazy, crazy price gouging situations have to come to an end because it's not sustainable anymore. So then they have to come back down because you guys voted with your wallet. And people have been brutally in my comment section saying they're not ordering Amazon anymore. They're not doing this. And, they're saving money over there. They're doing this, they're doing that just to save a few dollars, just because, it's coming. It's on the horizon. Just because they haven't announced it yet, it is there. It is there. And we just wait a little bit, and then they're going to have to at one point announce it that, hey, we are in a recession. And somebody brought up a great thing. They said that I watched this podcast with the CIA dude. I don't know if you guys know him or not. And he said, now with the US being, facing issues itself, it maybe wasn't such a great idea to spend billions of dollars on foreign aid, right? And then I'm looking at it like, we as Americans are always the last people to kind of get support. We always are the last ones to receive support from our own government. It's always other countries, other people. But when we are in crisis mode, there is never anything where the White House or these people would say, we need to fix this so people get employed. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's like, we need people in government saying, hey, you are running the economy into the ground, Federal Reserve and all these, we need to turn this around or there's going to be issues. But we don't have that. We tell other people, oh, don't go to war, don't do this. Well, we have wars here now with unemployment, right? Why isn't this considered a national security crisis? And and they're going to start using the power of the government to actually lower interest rates or come up with some creative ways on how to manage all this. But they're gonna say, oh, we're gonna wait till fall and then we're gonna see what's gonna happen. And Bidenomics are working great. Yeah, in the unemployment sector. Yeah, that's what's going on. But besides that, there is absolutely let me say that right. There's absolutely no great future that I see with these unemployment layoffs, right? Because there's just no company that's absorbing all these people. The only company that has been absorbed, the only company that I know that has been absorbing these laid off people is Tom Brady's basketball or footwear football company that said, hey, if you got laid off at Nike, just come over and we'll hire you so we can, build the brand. But that is the only company I know that absorbed all these people. Everybody else I've seen, oh, we don't hire from Dell. Oh, and somebody in my comments also wrote, hey, my friend's a CIO, chief internal officer, and he's been looking for over a year now for a job. And it is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. And you have to now be so aware, and you have to be willingness to jump through so many hoops to get a job. So now, before where you're like, I don't need to move cities, I don't need to move states for a job, now you do. It has come to the time where they say, we're going to give you 20%, decrease in pay, and you're going to have to move to another area. That's what you got to do. That's what you just got to do, because there's nobody else hiring and there's no competition. So if you're looking in the workplace right now, and you look on LinkedIn and you look on Indeed, all these places, they're not hiring. They're not, and they know it. So when they're looking for people, they got the upper hand. And when corporations have the upper hand and not the job seeker, we're in trouble, because then they do with you whatever they want to do. Oh, we're gonna have you guys do a test before before you start working here. We're gonna have you do a test, and then give you a test, and it probably benefits the company. It's actually legal to do that, but who cares, right? Who's gonna enforce that? Who's gonna enforce that you're not gonna work 4 or 5 hours on some spreadsheet that's gonna help the company out, right? So if you do that with a bunch of different candidates, 4 to 5 hour assignments, all of a sudden, that's a whole nother business, right? All of a sudden, you're like, hey, we got all these people, they all did these data sets, they all did these spreadsheets, and now, instead of having an intern do it, we just had our interviewees do it. I know it's not technically legal, but there's no corporate police that's going to start policing it. So yeah, it is absolutely crazy. And then all these people with the student loans in my poll that said 50% are delinquent and not paying, that matches about up what news articles are saying, that they're like, hey, why would I pay that right now? Besides the big fees like this person did, and this other person that I have on the screen right now, are actually really sad when you can't get a job that you spent so much money on, and you had to transfer industries because it wasn't enough, right? There were just not enough jobs. There wasn't enough high paying jobs. And when you apply for forbearance, your college should actually reimburse you if you cannot get those removed. If you can't get forbearance, your college should actually pay, because it's just sad to tell you and sell you a pipe dream, and then reality kicks in and it is not how they said it would. So they fudge the numbers, right? The unemployment fudges the numbers. All these people that got laid off, and smaller companies that did layoffs that aren't even part of the data also did layoffs, because I didn't have to report my layoff that I had to do. So all these people that did layoffs, so it's just absolutely crazy, right? And now you're looking at, oh, I just came out of college and I need a job. And good luck to you to finding one, because it is brutal. Because people in recessions like this take title decreases, they take pay cuts just to be back at work. And then they say, in 2 years, I'm going to start looking at what I had before and kind of, get back to where I was. But right now, it's hunkering down and just saving money. And it is just absolutely brutal when we're reaching all-time highs in everything. And when we're, looking at the unemployment, is also reaching new highs. And so, yeah, we are in trouble. And the only way out of it is having companies hire us. That's how it kind of works. But, work from home's dead. So you got to go into the office. And if you can do your job from home, the CEO probably said, why not outsource? So that's also not a possibility. And it's just hard to figure out what is going to be next, because at one point, one of these bubbles, these slabs that I talked about in my other video, credit card delinquencies, housing, at one point, one of these is just going to be a huge pop, and then we will see what's going to happen. Then there's going to be some sort of reset, some sort of federal government aid, and then we will see what we're really made out of. Because once we reach that level of ca- cas- catastrophe, where one of these big things is going to give, and we're in true crisis mode, then we're going to be looking at things the right way. But before that, we'll just kick the can down the road as we always do, and just keep moving, making minimum payments on debt, and just keep on chugging along. But when we look at all these debts, even the national debt, is like that reached 35 trillion in no time. Like 4 years ago, it was like at 20 something. It almost doubled in 4 years. And so now it's going to triple, and it's just not going to be good, because at one point you need to pay that. At one point, that's going to come due, just like your credit card debt at one point is going to be due. And if the United States would file for bankruptcy or do something like that, and I know we can just print money, but printing money isn't the solution, because then everything just gets even more expensive. And then they're gonna, then a house is gonna cost $2 million, a shitty one. So then you gotta own assets. So probably tip of the day is try to own assets, right? If it's gold, silver, if it's houses, you gotta own something. So when this whole thing comes down and they're gonna do something with the dollar, that you own something. Because if you're not gonna own something, then it is no good. So let me know how you guys are preparing for all of this, and if you're just living your day-to-day life, because a lot of people are, and they're saying, got my debts paid off, got my house paid off, and I'm just waiting for the storm and looking to buy a boat afterwards. Had those comments too. So let me know what you guys think about all this, of these all new time highs. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. This was a little different park that I was in today. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow.